Hello.
Hi everyone, Kashia Sharice and my handsome husband.
Of no name.
Everybody, you know what his name is. He's unknown. But
On
anyway,
social media, I have no footprint.
yeah. We know that, babe, because you're never on social media unless I post you, right?
I decapitated myself about 8 years ago.
That's a strong word, decapitated.
I did. I severed all ties with social media 8 years ago. You know when that was, right?
When?
That was when somebody sitting to my left decided to reach out and touch someone.
So how does that story go? Oh, well, we have to tell them how it started because I actually posted on my Facebook that we rekindled our love after 22 years. So let's take them back to the beginning.
Take them back to 89.
To 89, baby. That sounds so long ago.
That's because we old.
I'm young.
Well, anyway.
At heart. Okay.
Whatever. Well, this lovely love story started way, way back in 1989, probably before some of you guys were even born.
Yeah.
It was a nice fall day, high school, sitting around chilling at my locker with one of my buddies. And we just so happened to notice, this young lady that always moves through the hall so fast with her head down, holding these books, clutched them close to her
Speedy
chest.
Gonzalez is what I was called.
And that is what she was. So this particular day, she zoomed by happenstance because it was never opportunity for me to even get close enough to her to even want to say anything to her. But this particular day, by happenstance, she happened to go right in the class next to my locker. So my buddy and I got to tripping about it, like, okay, like, man, she moves so fast, how you gonna get a chance to talk to her? I hurried up and ran in the classroom before the bell rang, introduced myself to her, offered her my phone number, told her, if she wanted to talk to me, get to know me, she called me. She didn't give me her number right away. She just was like kind of shocked that I was approaching her. And I was like, yeah. You're the one. So later,
I was a nerd.
Later down the road, like later that week, we conversated a little bit over the phone, and then we had more conversations throughout, the week in school, and that's where this journey began. And keep a good close ear to the word journey. It's going to come up again later on in this video.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of weeks went by, and we got to talk more and more and got to know each other more and more. So we decided that we were going to officially become, what did we become?
We started a relationship. I was 14. I was pretty young. I hope my daughter doesn't ask me when I started dating. But I was 14 and he was 16.
Of course, we got the long female version of that. I was just looking for boyfriend and girlfriend answer, and there we go. But anywho, so we became boyfriend and girlfriend. So that lasted, I want to say, close to a year.
Year and a half,
somewhere
give
in
or
there.
take.
Everything was going well. We were like madly in love with one
Very
another.
innocent, guys. Like, we did not kiss.
I just enjoy spending time with you, talking with you, and enjoying your company. It had nothing to do with sex, like 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 months before we kissed. So,
okay.
Yes. So I kind of got what her mom was saying, but I was in love. So, yeah, I understand, you want to protect your daughter and you love your daughter, but yeah, I also love her too. So we broke up. Wink, wink.
Broke up.
Uh-huh.
He broke my heart, guys.
This is the first time I'm talking. We supposedly broke up and we were still sneaking around, seeing one another.
Oh, you mean that time. Okay.
You always going ahead of the plan.
That's so
But
true.
Anywho,
that's me.
And then her mom found out that we were still talking, and her mom was basically like really adamant at this point, like, dude, leave my daughter be. She needs to concentrate on her studies. You need to go on about your business. So that's what I did.
And then that's when my heart broke.
I broke her heart, unintentionally, but intentionally.
You know how you have that off topic. You know how your heart is broken where you don't eat for 2 days and you're crying and you're curled up on the bed. And you're feeling that deep down hurt and pain in the bottom of your heart, and it's aching. That's how I was. That's how.
Going through that little bout of being heartbroken. So life goes on. We get through high school. I graduate, move on, start life as a young man out there working hard, grinding, trying to do my thing. she goes through the rest of her years there at school at Marshall and graduates and getting ready to head off to college. Just in passing, hey, how you doing? Hey, all that old good stuff. How things going? Just to see how each other was doing. And we really still felt something for one another, but we didn't broach it.
Nope,
we just were
didn't
like
broach
really
it.
casual and friendly, like, hey, nice to see you again. We separated, went our ways, and man, my heart was thumping like that bass drum I used to play in band. Boom, boom, it was bumping. And I was like, man, that girl still make me feel that way. Wow. So I never knew what that was, and again, life went on, I never, ever, ever forgot that feeling in my life. I never forgot, how she made me feel, and that euphoria of being around her was so like off the chain wonderful. Like,
I felt that too, guys. That feeling of just when you're not in that person's presence and then you come back. That's kind of rare to have that with someone. Sometimes you have that with friends where you're excited to see them every time and you all fall right back into place. This was similar to that, but on a deeper level.
Much deeper level.
So that was coming from both of us as far as that feeling.
Yeah, so it's one of those things what you struggle with in life where your heart belongs to someone else, but you try to move on and you try to, make things happen in life, and that person's gone. So what do? Do you just sit there and die, or do you just try to move on and go on with life? Neither here nor there, but we both tried different relationships throughout our adult years, all through our college years, all through my years of schooling and working, and I just was never able to feel that void that was left in my heart by losing her. And it was a strange thing. Like, I've loved women, and they've never ever really been able to get to that center. And they've always wondered, like, man, you never really let me get close. That's what it was. Like, no one could really feel that emptiness that was left in my heart by losing her. And it was just a hard thing to deal with. And she's had similar situations in her life where
something missing. I remember one time I wrote down all the qualities that I wanted in a man to marry. And I wrote it out and I put it in the Bible. And it came back full circle after the 22 years when I realized that he had all the qualities that I had written on that paper. But let's continue our story.
I had my Lenny Williams moment.
Lenny Williams.
Oh.
Okay.
I love you. Yeah, that was me then, because I was like, man, I can't believe I allowed this girl to get out of my life again. Like, Steve, what the hell are you doing?
You just revealed your name. Thanks.
Okay, everybody out there know my damn name. Okay. But anyway,
I had to bleep that.
So anywho, like, dude, what are you doing? And I just sat there, and that was the first time in my life that I realized that I regretted not speaking up and really attacking and aggressively pursuing what I wanted in life. Like, I was always about business, hustling hard, making money, and love was just a secondary thing for me because, like I say, no one could ever really fulfill that void in my heart. And to allow her to escape out of my life again, I regretted that like big time. So life went on.
11 years in between that we had not spoken or seen each other. So I was going through a lot in my life in, say, 2010, end of 2010, going into 2011. I was going through a transition in my life, and I had actually, it was placed on my heart to reach out to him. I knew he was on Facebook. I had seen him on Facebook, but I hadn't reached out before. And someone had told me that they had, somebody had told me that they ran into him recently, and he was asking about me, but that was like in the back of my head. I had, already moved on. So,
a family member.
So
it's funny how that works, God. Look at God work, y'all. Look at God work. About 3 months prior to her reaching out, I had put the word out there. From my lips to God's ears.
But that was not in my forefront. I had dismissed that whole thing. I wasn't trying to look for you. So towards the end of 2010, it was just placed on my heart. You know how something is in your heart, like pressing you to do something, and you just like, sometimes you may say, I'm not listening. Sometimes that's God, yeah, God. So y'all need to listen when it's something that's really pressing on you. And when it comes to that, it's just a certain type of feeling that you have to do it. So the first time it was pressing on me, I was just like, no, I'm not going to reach out to him. The second night, I end up emailing them and saying, how you doing? This is Sharice, just checking in and say hi.
Never really went on there, did anything, never used it. So I'm sitting there paying these bills, and I get the little message notation in the bottom, bing. So, I wear glasses, right? I don't have them on now. I don't do contacts, but anywho, I was like, what the? So when I looked and lifted the laptop up and I saw her face there, I jumped straight up in the air and dropped the laptop. I said, oh God, oh my God. I got like super anxious, like I was sweating, my heart was pounding. I was like, is that what I think it is? Oh my God, I've been waiting so long to hear from this girl. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I picked up the laptop and I sat there and stared at it for a minute, and then I replied back to her message, and then she replied back, and we just touched base a little bit. Hey, planning mode, like, bam, opportunity is knocking. Woo! Here we go. You're not gonna lose it this time, bro. You're not gonna lose it this time, bro. So I put my plan into action. If anybody knows anything about me, I'm a big planner. I love to plan out everything. Yes. I love to know where I'm going next, what's gonna happen in my life next. A lot of times, it goes according to plan, but sometimes God throws something in your way, a little wrinkle, a little bump, to see what you're going to do. But anywho, I was like, okay, bam, she comes to Chicago. This is the time frame. Bam, Steve, you gotta hook up with her and, get to see her, and see what's happening. So she came to Chicago. We did meet up to have dinner, to chill and just talk. And it was right there again. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. See, y'all don't even understand. Y'all don't even know. But there it was. It was there. It never left. I'm trying to tell you. I'm dating myself. It had never left. That love was still just like it was from the first time we met. And I was happy that I won that $1 bet with Dex.
$1. I know I'm kind of heavy-handed. $1.
$1. That was all I had in my pocket at the time. $1.
I don't like that bet.
And I was glad that I won that one there, boy. So
what was it $1 again?
That was all I had in my pocket.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's what I just said.
Oh,
so anywho, we hooked up, we talked, and we decided that okay, you got some stuff going on you need to filter through. I was in the process of transitioning
I was out
of a relationship. And I had a little time frame around it. Again, a planner. I had a time frame, and reuniting with her sort of like intertwined with that time frame a little bit. And I want to say New Year's of 2010. 11. New Year's 2011. Was when we officially reconnected back into a relationship, and yes. I went down to where she was living, and we celebrated and had a good time of getting back together and starting a relationship again. I was still in Chicago. She was in Georgia. So that was kind of unique. One of those long distance type deals.
A lot of commuting back and forth. A lot of money.
Ooh, I spent a lot of money.
But we were able to build and talk about a lot of things. Like our deep conversations was like a regular thing. Mm-hmm. We talked about our future. We talked about our plans, what we wanted out of life. We actually covered a lot of different things. We both had kids. So we talked about how that would look as far as blending our families together, and just becoming a family and going forward. So we talked about a lot of those key things before getting together. Mm-hmm. And it took about 9 months, and we were married.
Yeah, it took less than 9 months to figure out what we wanted to do.
That's true.
For it to go back and forth and travel to go visit her and see her. But when we saw that this thing had fast tracked itself, like it was out of our control. It was like a runaway train. We was trying to slow things down, but man, when you get that type of love for somebody, it's like it's out of your hands sometimes. So we hit that 9-month mark, and I was like, hey, there are no jobs down there. Man, I'm missing you like crazy. You know, we got to do this thing. Like,
he gave me an ultimatum.
I sure did.
He sure did.
Yeah. I think I started a bad tradition in our relationship with that ultimatum stuff. But we'll get to that in a few minutes.
But so I didn't want to come back to Chicago because I was just like never
feeling it.
But because he had touched my soul and my heart, I decided to make that move back to Chicago to try to make it work. But I did tell him 2 to 3 years max, and we have to go somewhere else.
And I did promise that 2 to 3 years, we'll be out of here. 6 years down the road, we were still in Chicago.
After many trials and tribulations.
And we have been through quite a few things like that. That honeymoon phase of our relationship had worn off a little bit.
But the honeymoon phase, the honeymoon phase where everything it seemed so perfect, but we still had that spark.
Oh yeah,
that's one thing that never.
The love never waned.
Like
it's that thing. Still today, it bothers me sometimes. But the issues we had nothing to do with our love for one another. Right. It was just learning, 2 fully grown adults learning how to live with one another and be a family with one another.
With past issues and other
relationship issues.
And
with baggage. That's that. To make that a long story short, because she about to go, y'all.
Okay. So baggage within yourself. I know I can get deep. Baggage that you have personally and baggage you have within being in relationships is what we brought to the table with our love.
Yeah. So we both had baggage. I had a carry-on and maybe a backpack. She had a 5-piece set. And we figured that thing out. Because, you got to realize we had similar but different upbringings. Mm-hmm. She had mother and father. I had just a mom. And the only father figure I had was my grandfather. And that played a part in it. Me being the baby out of the family, I had a lot of stuff that I was dealing with. Like, I've been working, like legitimately working since I was 8 years old, getting a paycheck. And we grew up in the rough part of Chicago, man, and life was hard for my mom, single mom with all those kids trying to survive, and she didn't work, handicapped, so we had to make it do what it do. And that brought its own baggage, and then relationship stuff, because I could be a little cold and like straightforward and like bam, boom. As far as my relationships were, like I loved and cared for whomever I was with, but sometimes it seemed like, man, you just ice cold, dude. You have no feelings, no emotions. That wasn't it. It was just that I was concentrating basically on being that man that, you see on TV, provide for the family, knocking everything down so that the woman don't care for that. But some women want that, but some don't care nothing about that. They just want to be loved. And that's the piece where I had to disconnect in our relationship as well as other relationships.
Emotional peace.
The emotional nugget. I didn't have it.
And acknowledging what we women do in the household is important.
That mess. Anywho,
acknowledge.
That was minor compared to what it could have been. But those issues there were what some of the struggles we had after the honeymoon phase of the relationship and figuring our way through all of that mess, because we had to clean out the garbage in order to get to the real issues that we were having with one another.
Right.
That was prohibiting our love from staying in that blossom phase that it was in the beginning. So once we figured out what all that junk was, we slowly but surely figured out a way to fix that.
But what did it take? It took going to counseling. It took spiritual advice. It took us having heart to hearts. It took space.
Yeah.
Guys, we had distance where we had kind of separated, or we did. And this isn't for all couples, but for us, it helps. So
but check this out.
Different things.
We separated, but we saw each other every day. we separated, but we spent several nights with each other.
Right.
We separated, but we couldn't be living together at the moment. So if you call it a separation, then I guess that's what it was. But we actually did need some miles between us,
which we did get,
to allow us to figure out our mess, to help our marriage.
Right.
Because one thing we did know was that we weren't going to get divorced. We may have threw that D word out there once or twice.
Yeah.
But I never meant to have a divorce. She never really meant to have a divorce.
Right.
But it was just out of anger and frustration that the D word even came out. But thank God that we were able to figure it out and not go down that road, because that would have been traumatic to this day. Because I can tell you this now, had I lost her again for a third time, I was done. There was no more relationships for old Steve. He was just going to be a single man out here, just living life, grinding it out, jet setting around, enjoying life. Yeah, that was my goal if I had lost out on this relationship, because I knew, like I said, when I first met her, I knew that she was the one that was meant for me. She was my wife. And that's the way it's going to be. I had a dream back then at 16, 17 years old of her walking up to me while I was sitting at a little table in a chair, watching out of the window, looking at what's going on outside. And she had silver hair. Beautiful. She was still beautiful like she is now. Had nice head full of silver hair. And she leaned over and kissed me right behind my ear here. Oh, and she's like, I'm leaving out now, babe. Anything you need? And I was like, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Go ahead on, enjoy yourself. At 17, I had that dream. So there was no way I was going to lose her for a third time and not fulfill that. And allow that to manifest in our lives. So I did the work. I stopped being stubborn. I stopped being, that big male ego getting in the way. And I put that to the side and started listening more to what was bothering her about our relationship and about me per se. And she did the same, vice versa.
I checked myself. I looked in the mirror, even though I used to always say I'm the best thing smoking. Not really in that sense, because I'm not like that. But I had to take a look in the mirror and really address some of my issues and some of my deep-rooted issues. And once I was able to do that and let God open that up, the area, and be vulnerable in a lot of areas, it opened up a whole new thing. So when you have a different perspective, it can change your whole world.
That's for sure. And her main thing in that whole process of us having a little rocky time was that I hurt her once. I wasn't going to hurt her again. And she had all of that other baggage that she needed to shed. But the main thing was she did not want to be hurt again. And I didn't want to hurt her again, but I was hurting her unknowingly by not, listening to her and understanding her point of view, where she was coming from on different things in the relationship. We don't have those issues now. If we do, it's just something minuscule that we can work out in a moment's notice, and we move on from it. We don't dwell on things. We don't, hate on one another or go to bed angry at one another. We may be a little perturbed, but we're not angry, because you never know how long you got on this earth, and you may not even wake up the next day, and the person you love the most, you went to sleep angry and upset at them and with bitterness in your heart. And that's one thing that I don't do. And I feel the same about her. Like, she doesn't go to bed angry. Like, she'll lay there, but she won't go to sleep. And next thing you know, I feel, babe, are you awake? Hell no, I ain't awake. Girl, stop playing with me. But anyway, so now we get to the point where we fast forward this thing. Bam, we're in the relationship. Before that rocky stuff started really happening, let me go back a few steps. My wife gets pregnant. So she's pregnant. We're all excited. Yay, we got back together. Bam, you're pregnant. Oh, life's going to be so nice, so great, so wonderful. And at that time, she was really stressing about wanting to work from home. But the way we were set up and the funds got a little depleted with the wedding and all that traveling and stuff. So I really didn't have a lot of free cash. She ended up pregnant, and we were all excited about that. And between the stresses of, us still figuring each other out newly in that marriage and wanting to be home, working from home, and just a whole bunch of stuff, unfortunately caused her to have a miscarriage. And
that was a sad time.
That was a really sad time in our relationship. She got a little down and out, depressed about it a little bit, and she just was sad and crying a lot that, finally she's back with the man of her dreams, her husband, the man she's dreamed about all these years of spending the rest of her life with. And when God blesses us with a child, the devil takes it away, so to say. And it was hard. You know, I had to help her through that and help her get better from that. And it was a battle. It was a real battle because it hit her really hard. And God, being the magnificent God that He is, He blessed us with the second child. Mm-hmm. And that was a relief within itself. On my part, I want to say, because she blossomed back up again. Mm-hmm. Boom. She came back to her old self. Thrilled. She did everything in her power to make sure that baby was healthy, make sure she was healthy. And it was a battle because that little girl used to kick her tail. And we got to the point where we were trying to figure out a name for our daughter. And we were like, man, what do we want to name her? This, that, and the other. So we were going through all these names. And then I was talking about one day about how large and rough of a journey it was us getting to that point in our relationship where we were. And when I said that, it was like almost simultaneously we both looked at each other. That's it. That's her name. And we named our daughter Journey with 2 E's. Journee. So that's, when I told you guys in the beginning of this video, listen out for it. You'll hear it again. Journey of the relationship came full circle by my wife giving birth to our beautiful daughter, Journey Cassidy. And that took us down another wonderful year or two of bliss. And then that's when we started, having a few issues of figuring each other out and all of that. Work and be a mom and
a wife. How we do women, we take care of the whole household.
It's kind of hard.
But we were definitely able to transition through that rough patch. Like I said, we had many different tools that we used to get through that. It was definitely not easy. It took work on both of our parts. And that's what it takes when you're fighting for your love and you're fighting for your marriage. You have to dig in and you have to get in between all those skeletons, everything that's in there that's hindering you, that may have been from childhood, maybe have been through previous relationships. You have to get in and do the work. So we were able to do the work, and we're now in a great place.
We were doing the work, and I know I saw it. We were doing the work and working out this relationship thing, and then we decided, let's take a trip. We came down here to Arizona on a trip. Man, I thought I would never leave Chicago. Got down here to Arizona and fell in love. I was like, oh my God, this place is the bomb. It's wonderful. So when it came time to leave, I was like sad and upset. I was like, man, I don't even want to go back to Chicago. But we had to get back. We had jobs and everything, house and all that, kids and school. So we got back and we talked about it on the plane all the way home. But man, we got to figure out how we gonna get down here to Arizona.
And I had put in the application because that's just how I am. I'm a go-getter too. So I had put in the application. I think actually either during or when we got back, I had put in an application for jobs down here. So when we got back, the job called me. I interviewed, did all the necessary documents, and within a week and a half, they were offering me a position down here. And I looked at my husband and said,
I got a job in Arizona. Yeah. And I need to be there in 4 days. Right. What the hell? You what? And then she turned around and smiled like she didn't get bent out of shape because I was freaking out. Like, 4 days? What you mean for? Babe, you told me 2 years. It's going on year 7. I'm up like Chuck. So I had to bow down and honor that and get the game plan together on how I was going to get her down here to Arizona in 4 days. So we did a lot of crunching the numbers and all that other stuff and figuring out kids and schools, and she did all that. But I did all the other stuff of trying to the logistics of getting her from Chicago to Arizona in that 4-day window. It took us 3 days to settle all of our affairs for her and figure out how we were going to, manipulate this to make that happen for her. And we did it. We drove down. It took us like 25 hours and some change. It's a 28-hour drive, a couple of them 100-mile hours, But we got here in 25 and a half hours. And in that weekend, it was Saturday morning, mid-afternoon when we arrived. And we arrived and we set up some stuff with a family member for her to stay for about a week because her apartment wasn't going to be ready. We did all of that in in that one day on Saturday when we arrived. We found her somewhere to live, put down all the deposits, ready to rock. But the place wasn't ready for about a week. So unfortunately, we don't like to, depend on other people for a lot of things, but we had to lean on a family member, and we appreciate them for that, allowing her to stay that week until her place was ready. And that was a blessing for that to happen, and the rest is history from there. So she worked for about her 90-day window at work, figuring out her logistics of getting to work. And I left the car. I flew back to Chicago.
With the kids. He had the kids, and I was in Arizona by myself.
Yep.
Enjoying that freedom.
Yeah, she had her freedom for a few months until she figured out how everything was going to play out with the job and kids schooling down here. She had to research and do all of that stuff. And once she found everything and got everything in place, I, on my end, processed the transfers from Chicago. We set the date. During the winter break, I flew the kids down, and because she was missing her babies and Skype was not doing it. So I flew the kids down, and I spent that week. Was it a week or a weekend? Can't remember.
It was a week.
I spent that week with her and the kids and made sure that everything was adjusted. And then I flew on back to Chicago, and we started a game plan again of how I was going to get down here with my position at the time.
How long did that take, though?
That took about a year and a half.
Okay.
Longer than what we anticipated because I was sort of like strung along a little bit by the job I had at the time. And they kept saying, we got something down there, and it just never materialized. So I got a phone call one day. Well, before that point, my wife found us a house down here. She was living in an apartment originally, and we had been talking about we need to find a house. So my wife found us a house down here. She did all of that leg work along with all that traveling she used to do with the work and dropping the kids off and picking them up and going to her.
And grocery shopping and cleaning up.
And out here, nothing's really close out here. You need to have a car to get around. It's not like in Chicago where you can walk a few blocks and there you are. You need a vehicle to get around out here. And I didn't understand it being in Chicago, all her frustration of, it's just a lot, babe. It's a lot on me. I'm like, yeah, babe, but it'll be all right. How much money you need? That's my thing. Here, this will solve that right now. That's just too much stress to be dealing with. But I got that call from her. It was like, hey, bro, you said that your job would have you something down here in 1 year. We're going on a year and a half. Either you're coming or you're not. I was like, well, what you mean? Either you're coming or you're not. So remember I talked about that little ultimatum thing earlier in this conversation? Yeah, I think I set a bad precedent for that because I was like, whoa, this is crazy. How am I going to do this? So you remember she had 4 days for her transition. I had 2. So I had to figure out what to do with my job, figure out what to do with our apartment at the time in Chicago and in Sauk Village. I had a car. I wasn't going to drive all the way back down here. So I had to figure all that out, and I only had 2 days to do it. So, me being who I am, I made that thing happen. Yeah, I made that happen. I gave the car to my daughter. I gave away half the stuff in the house that we had. The other half I sold. Bikes, toys, all of that. I just walked to the neighborhood park and started giving away crap to the kids in the neighborhood. They were like freaking out because they thought I was like some type of creep. But I was like, oh no, I'm leaving Chicago. No, my kids are gone. You guys can have this stuff.
They thought you was a creep.
Yeah, they thought I was a creep, man. They was like, I don't want your crusty bike. I was like, no, seriously, it's a brand new bike. You can have it if you don't have one. And finally, they was a little trusting, and then they took the stuff and they went on basketball rims, all that good stuff. Gave it all away, all my tools. I gave all them away to one of my good employees that worked for me at where I was working, and I got my plane ticket. Half my clothes went to Goodwill, the other half went with me, and I was up. And I made it here to Arizona a little bit past that deadline because something happened in the airport where I missed that flight. But she was all upset about that, but it was out of my control. I got here, and the rest is history, man. It ain't no turning back for old Steve, man. I love it. And unless someone in the family is ill, you won't see me back in Chicago, people. Business or family. That's the only way you'll see me there.
Business or family.
Coming soon in November.
But yeah, so it's definitely been a journey. We still have a lot more that we're planning within our lives, what we want to do, where we want to be in a certain point in our life. We want to retire at a certain point in our life really soon. But we have a lot on our plate that we're doing now. As you guys have been following me on my social media platforms, but we are in it together. We are united as one.
Just like the airline.
Supporting each other in all of our endeavors, and we're in a good place, as you can see.
Very good
smile. So
look at her smile. Look at my smile.
Yeah, mine. Yeah, but we just wanted to come.
Hollywood smile. Look at that smile.
We wanted to come just to do a follow-up because I posted pictures on my social media, and we wanted to kind of tell you the backstory of how we met and where we are now, and all
how we got to those pictures she showed you.
Yeah, how we got to that point where we were like really shining. So if you have any feedback, post it. If you have any questions you want to ask, I'll have my email in the section below, and you can just reach out and ask questions. You know, it's always good. You know, I'm open, and my husband's open to giving advice, and we just want to thank you for listening in. I know this
long 45-minute video,
pretty long video, but thank you so much for your support. We appreciate all the love that we get. And again, my name is Kashia Sharice.
And my name is Stephen Charles. And we are the Lewises.
The Lewises. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hit that.